Considered to be one of, if not the best IGL to ever play the game, Zero has been able to consistently lead his team to top placements against some of the hardest competition in the world. Well, mostly. With the recent addition to Hal to the long-standing duo of Zero and Jen Burton, many have deemed this combination to be a super team, and with their recent performance in ALGS, they have lived up to the hype so far. So what exactly is it that allows Zero to dominate so hard from an edge playstyle? To do this, we'll break the game down into 6 stages. The process all begins with POIs. With all the POIs available, selecting the right one can heavily impact the outcome of a given match. Every POI has strengths and weaknesses. So what makes a good POI for an edge playstyle, and just what are some of the things Falcons prioritize when selecting? To do this, we'll want to look closely at Mill and SkyWest Trials, their most desired POI on each respective map. The first thing we'll look at is time to loot. Mill is the most condensed POI on Stormpoint. As you can see, Mill can be looted in under a minute and 45. When compared to other POIs, it ranks third, which is considerably fast given the quantity of loot associated with it. The tier of loot is also quite high, with the entirety of Mill being high tier loot. Prowlers located just north give more chance for missing attachments and will give damage for shooting them as well as XP when the nest is completed. And looking at Sky West, they have a balloon and, well, just some really good loot. But even with all the bonuses the POI provides, we still see teams perform poorly. That's where we get back to Falcons. To fully understand how to properly analyze the map, we have to understand how Evo shields work. Evo shields act as a layer of armor over your health bar. The way to get more armor is to get more points, which can be done at various areas around the map. When looking at the map, Zero sees numbers and resources. For each Evo cache, 350 plus Evo. For each survey beacon or ring console, 200 plus. Care packages give 50 each. PvE in the game, like Prowlers or Spiders, 150 plus, but they take a little bit more time. These numbers all contribute to gaining Evo.
And then we just do that and do map room, and then we evac and we perps.
Obviously, the higher the better, but reaching breakpoints is crucial for taking a fight on edge or even just surviving if zone is near your POI. Going from white to blue is easier than going from blue to perp, and so on. Edge works by sacrificing position for better loot. So if you arrive with similar loot as the people who are already set up in zone, you're going to have a bad time. Okay, now that we understand Evos, the strategy starts when you load into the game. Players, IGLs especially, will open their map. A lot. This is to view nearby POIs and what resources are in the general vicinity. This, in combination with the first ring, will determine their pathing out of their POI. Even though Falcons are an edge team, when zone is on them, they will play zone. This is the same for all top IGLs, because negative rotating is generally a very bad practice. Negative rotating is when a team moves away from zone. The major problem with this is every team will be moving towards zone. So by moving backwards, you're becoming an obstacle for both yourself and the teams trying to rotate around you. When a team has zone, they are significantly more likely to have a high scoring game. So while Falcons choose a POI and adopt a playstyle for edge, they are fully prepared to adopt a zone playstyle if necessary. But what if zone's on you, and you have no beacon? Are you just screwed? Well, no. There are 2 ways to mitigate this issue. The first is reading the zone. The map tends to function similarly from game to game. Zone 1 is the hardest to blind read, but certain zones are much easier to read than others. And having played thousands of games, you get good at reading zones, and noticing small differences that lead to drastically different endings. But it's not always reliable.
We have zone, we have zone, we have
What's
zone.
his
It's Echo,
name?
maybe. It's Echo.
I'm a nade,
It's
fuck.
definitely devastated. 100%.
You want to bet money on it?
Yeah, let's send
Definitely live.
the one like already found.
Well, we were both wrong, so.
The second is using other teams to your advantage. All beacons have a certain chance to spawn, so you are never guaranteed to have one, but the odds that you and the teams around you don't have one are very low. So by paying attention to other teams' movements, you can determine the general direction of a zone based on their actions. Now, let's talk about the car. The car allows for teams to traverse the map with greater safety and speed. Used properly, you can rotate ahead of teams and get priority to spots that would otherwise be impossible. Or it can be used to gather more resources. Honestly, there's so much that goes into fighting it will need its own video. Just know that fighting on edge is inevitable, and for some reason, Falcons are very good at it. When making the final approach into zone, the general strategy is to hit a survey beacon, evac into an open spot, and stabilize. But sometimes it's more advantageous to walk in, either because the zone is so compacted there's not a viable spot to play, or you think the walk-in is safe. Evac strategy is used when a spot in zone is open, and the only way to get to it is by soaring through the sky, but evacing itself is dangerous. For evacing to be an option, you have to make sure no team will shoot you off the balloon, make sure no team will shoot the balloon, and make sure you have a good memory because the scan only lasts a few seconds, so you'll have to soak in all the information. A survey beacon scans the exact location of every player at that moment, so for every second you wait, the information becomes less accurate. To combat these issues, we usually see 2 balloons from behind LOS from the zone directly after a beacon has been hit. Sometimes, this is even timed with zone closure to respond to any unexpected shift in the zone. We've now reached the most critical stage of the game, end zone. Where hundreds of variables can change from game to game, predicting what will happen is impossible. This is where all preparation goes out the window and you are relying on experience and instinct. Reacting to information quickly and confidently can be the difference between life and death. From here on out, it's all about maximizing your chances and minimizing your errors. Maximizing chances includes getting kills when available, clearing out your backside, and moving into better positions when the other teams are occupied. Minimizing errors includes things like not wasting valuable resources, not giving teams openings, and being too safe. Yes, being too safe. Zero understands risk versus reward better than any other player. During an endgame, a team will constantly be given chances for success and failure, some having windows of openings lasting less than seconds. Zero will constantly scout surrounding teams in search of kills or openings to rotate to better positions or attack a weakened team. When a team dies because of a decision, that doesn't mean the decision itself was flawed. The problem could have come in the execution or even just been unlucky. For example, if a fight has an 80% chance success rate, you will still lose 20% of the time. If this outcome were to occur, you would still make the same decision next time. In a real game, it's hard to determine the exact success rate of any given push, so people often associate dying as a bad call while living is a good one. Making a push against a team in Godspot might result in death, but if they succeed, they will be able to secure kills and a top placement. Not making this push might extend the team's survival time and get an additional placement or 2, but having one massive game can be equivalent to 3 or 4 mediocre games. This understanding of the bigger picture is what makes Zero so good. The last trait crucial to any top IGL is adaptability. This intangible resource is one that comes from years of experience in a battle royale. Preparation and planning will only take you so far. Random things happen over the course of a game, both good and bad. Using these to better your chances is one of the hardest things to do during an intense game. Making these split-second adjustments is what gives his team the edge. At the end of the day, what makes Falcons such a commanding team is that they are extremely consistent. They always come into the game with strong knowledge of enemy teams' patterns provided by their coach ZZ. Having 2 of the best IGL minds that have ever touched the game doesn't hurt either. With strong mechanical skills and a drive to improve and analyze every time they die, even sometimes when they win, they don't have many weaknesses. Every time they compete, their goal is simple: win.
Nice. Wait, how did we win?
Spicy collat no scope. Ooh.
Wait, how did we just win that?
Ooh, I walked out the doorway and did 400 damage with a Kraber shot, I think.
Shit! You didn't do shit!